Get ready for some craziness. In this video, we go over my mock draft 4.0, and there are a couple of trades that would shake up the NFL draft come the first round in just a couple of days. Starting it off, Tennessee Titans, they are going to have to make one of the biggest decisions that this franchise has needed to. Do they go with the star edge, Abdul Carter? Do they take the polarized quarterback in Shedeur Sanders? Do they go with who everyone thinks that they should? It's Cam Ward. Cam Ward is who they ultimately will decide on come draft day. He is a gunslinger. He can put the football anywhere on the field. Second pick of the draft, Cleveland Browns. Look, they need an offensive weapon. They could use a quarterback, or they could use an edge to pair up with Myles Garrett. If they could bring in Abdul Carter at number 2 and bring in, frankly, what's likely the best player in this draft, it could be Travis Hunter. A lot of people think that they're going to take Travis Hunter, but Abdul Carter going to the Cleveland Browns at number 3. Then it's the choice. Is it going to be Travis Hunter to the New York Giants, pairing him with Malik Nabers? Do they go quarterback? Think that it would be Travis Hunter to the Giants at pick number 3. That's an opportunity for them to take the most versatile player that we've maybe ever seen in the National Football League. At number 4, New England Patriots. Look, this is a team that could use more weapons for Drake May. They could also use a little bit of help on the defensive line. And frankly, if they didn't take a guy like Will Campbell, we would be a little bit upset. Will Campbell shores up the offensive line for the next decade probably. Forget about the arm length. He can play ball at a very high level. The Jacksonville Jaguars at pick number 5. You're probably wondering where the trades that are coming pretty soon here. The Jaguars, look, they could use some weapons to pair with Brian Thomas, and Trevor Lawrence needs to be able to deliver the ball to a tight end with high-level ability. That is why they're going to take Tyler Warren at number 5 and getting the most creative player with the ball in his hands that we have seen in the last few years out of college football. The Las Vegas Raiders at number 6. Look, they're going to need a weapon for the new quarterback, Geno Smith. Where else do they need to go than getting Ted McMillan? You would think Ashton Jeanty. You would think that he would be a perfect spot for that team. But look, they're going to need a wide receiver too, and Geno is going to get one there. At number 7, the New York Jets, looking at Shedeur Sanders. He potentially could be a good selection there for them. Need a quarterback of the future. But before they even get to their pick, there's a phone call. Who is it? It's GM Ryan Poles on the phone. And he's going to offer a future 3rd-round pick and a 5th-rounder this year to move up from 10 to 7 so that the Chicago Bears can select a monster of the Midway, the next monster of the Midway, Mason Graham. The Jets accept it, and Mason Graham becomes a Chicago Bear and a new force, game wrecker in the middle of that defense. At number 8, Carolina Panthers, still looking at Ashton Jeanty, still looking at some of these really good edge players available, and that's where they make their move. They're going to take a guy with a whole bunch of upside, and that's Shamar Stewart. Didn't have the production, but he certainly has the profile to be a weapon in the National Football League. At number 9, Saints are going to potentially take Ashton Jeanty. They're looking to get a wide receiver. They're going to make a pick for Shedeur Sanders, but there's another phone call. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they want Ashton Jeanty. They're going to give up a 1st-rounder this year to take Ashton Jeanty and a future 3rd-round pick. So Ashton Jeanty becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler, and we've got George Pickens, DK Metcalf, and Ashton Jeanty filling out that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Pretty good. At 10, the New York Jets, after gaining a little bit of draft capital, are going to decide that they need an offensive lineman to shore it up and completely protect their quarterback, Justin Fields, who they are going to ride with. But nope, they are going to make the selection that shocks everybody. They're going to bring in a guy to compete with Justin Fields. It's Shedeur Sanders at number 10. The Jets get their guy to compete with Justin. Shedeur Sanders is a New York Jets at pick number 10. 11, San Francisco 49ers, after all of that craziness, are sitting there staring down the barrel at cornerback Will Johnson. He is not going to escape outside of 11, and if he does, it would be ridiculous. Will Johnson, physical. He can flexibly turn his hips and run with just about anybody. Instincts, it's all there in what you need. At 12, we're going to keep it on the defensive side because the Cowboys could really use some help in the back end. They're going to go with safety Malachi Starks. You want a versatile guy, you want a guy that can hit, you want someone with veteran experience. The Cowboys are going to shore up the back end of their defense and bring in Starks out of Georgia, one of the dogs. 13, Miami Dolphins. Look, they could use a little bit more help on the offensive line. How else are you going to keep Tua protected? How else is he going to stay healthy than going with another offensive lineman? And that's why they are going to take Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Forget the tape against Georgia. He is a talented player at that and can be a cornerstone of someone's anchor point that they need on their offensive line. At 14, Indianapolis Colts. There's a possibility that if a tight end were there of the likes of Colston Loveland, that they would really like to take it, and you're darn right. They do take Colston Loveland at 14 and shore up another weapon for Anthony Richardson. At 15, the Atlanta Falcons. Again, a lot of needs for a number of these teams. And how about Jihad Campbell out of Alabama to help out on that defensive side? Look, a lot of these teams with these needs are going to have to try and take best available. I don't know if that's exactly the spot where they'd want to take Campbell, but again, he's the best off-ball linebacker without a doubt in this class, and they get a whole bunch of value. And Arizona Cardinals are really going to like this player that they get the opportunity to pick. It's going to be defensive lineman Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. He has the size of a building, lateral quickness that can run down any pedestrian, as well as NFL level running backs. He would be tremendous to add to that front in Arizona. The Cincinnati Bengals can really use a lot of guys on defense, frankly. They can pick up another defensive edge player to help out with Trey Hendrickson on the other side. If they could take James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, the athleticism to be able to run anybody down and compete with the likes of Lamar Jackson and having to beat a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen in the big games. It's not about the regular season. It's about who they're going to be playing in the playoffs. And a lot of the time we see Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes escaping their grasp. And so bringing him down, that's going to be huge. They take a player that can chase those guys down. Seattle Seahawks, this is where we're going to see them make a move at Luther Burden III out of Missouri. That's right, the third. Luther Burden is a perfect player to come out of the slots and be able to work with Jackson Smith and Jigba. They can kind of rotate there. He's very similar to what Jackson does, but I think that Seattle's going to go with him over Matthew Golden. I've had a lot of difficulty trying to decide between those. I've had Matthew going to the Seahawks previously, but here in this draft, we have Seattle taking Luther Burden. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, don't think that they're going to pass up an opportunity to take Jahdae Barron and continue to build depth and bring in a guy that can compete right away for a corner spot with Tampa Bay. And that is a division that they're not going to need to hold teams to 17, 20 points. I mean, like, they can give up some points. They have a very good offense. With Baker, they can score points. So they're going to be in some games where they can use the likes of Jahdae. Denver Broncos being in a really good spot. They can afford to go with an interior offensive lineman of the likes of maybe a little bit of a surprise here for others. Maybe thought he would go a little bit lower in this draft, but Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State adding to Denver, and they go with the trenches instead of maybe something that would be a little bit shinier. The Pittsburgh Steelers, after trading their pick, right? Remember that? From the New Orleans Saints. So the New Orleans Saints now own the 21st pick in this draft, and they are going to get their quarterback of the future, and that is Jackson Dart. Another quarterback off the board. The Saints get their quarterback. We don't really know how that's going to figure out with Rattler and Derek Carr and what's happening there, but they go on and they get their quarterback. The Chargers, Harbaugh would have loved to get a Michigan player, but we had so many already off of the board. 4 of them, as a matter, in the first, what did we have? With these Michigan Wolverines, 2, 3, 4 going in the top 16 picks in terms of those guys that won the national championship already off and gone. So how about Walter Nolan coming to Jim Harbaugh's defense? Jesse Minter gets a game wrecker up front. Green Bay Packers at 23. This is where they add to their dynamic ability. They bring in Matthew Golden and take their first wide receiver in forever and bring in a little bit more of an explosive guy. Imagine Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden on the same offense. It would be really dangerous to be able to defend those guys. You make one mistake and you're giving up a touchdown. Minnesota Vikings really use a little bit more help. They had Dallas Turner rotating a lot last year. It was incredible that he didn't really get playing time on the field all that much. So they're looking at a safety, the likes of Xavier Watts. Again, we are getting them a high-level safety, not waiting for the second round and seeing what the scraps are left. They need someone to come in and learn from Harrison Smith and one day take over the throne of which will be passed down from the Hitman. Houston Texans at 25, and they have this guy available. They're not passing him up. Emeka Egbuka, again, we've had him mocked there before and think that that would be very realistic because there are a couple players with maybe more impressive traits in terms of speed or size or fit, but Emeka Egbuka, I'm telling you, he will fit into any offense. He will make any team better. It doesn't matter where the ball is on the field. He is going to win and win consistently, and he'll be back with his former teammate at Ohio State, CJ Stroud. Los Angeles Rams really would have loved to have a tight end fall that far to them, and they're set at a number of spots. So in terms of the depth of what they could add to their defense, this is really what they are looking to do. I think Benjamin Morrison does that. They're good up front on the defensive line. Everybody could always use another player up there. The Baltimore Ravens, for this selection, they just need more help on the interior. They need someone with the offensive line like Tyler Booker. Just think that fits very well for them in the sense of protecting Lamar Jackson and bettering what they do as far as rushing the football, because they do it so often. Not as athletic as you would like him to be, but still darn good player and a starter for the Crimson Tide for quite a bit. So the Detroit Lions, with a good amount of options, you would think that Mike Green would be a really just fascinating choice, and the NFC North would be very scared to see Aiden Hutchinson and Mike Green on the same front that you have to go up against. Both of those guys are going to be seeing double teams. It would be arguably the best edge combination in football by week 1. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was maybe the best defensive player in the game before he got hurt. The Commanders, again, this is a pick that might not be the one people will think, but Amarion Hampton falling to 29, and Washington gets a running back that they can have that be like, okay, he's the guy, he's getting the majority of our carries, we're helping out Jaden, and that way he doesn't have the injury scares we think he will. Again, that's the main concern about Jaden when it was comparing him to Caleb, was Caleb has that stocky frame to be able to stay on the field, whereas Jaden a little bit longer, a little bit leaner, and health. If he's running so much, is he going to be able to stay on the field? So given more carries, putting less of responsibility on him. Buffalo at 30. It seems every year they're getting beat by the Chiefs, and it's 4 out of the last 5. And how is it happening? Not being able to get Patrick Mahomes when they need to. So Michael Williams at pick number 30 out of Georgia. He would be the type of guy to be able to wreck games and put pressure on Patrick Mahomes if the Chiefs do not shore up their offensive line, is just what they are very much so looking to do here at this point in the draft. And if they don't take an interior guy like Donovan Jackson, I would be shocked if they don't look somewhere of the likes of that. Player that is a culture builder. He's tough. He can rotate if you have injuries across the board, even play tackle if you need him to. So Donovan Jackson at 31. And the last pick of this draft, the Eagles, with frankly just a luxury once again to be able to take another guy from a Georgia defense. He fell all the way to 32 to become a Philadelphia Eagle, Jalen Walker. Paired with Nolan Smith, paired with Jalen Carter, paired with Jordan Davis. I mean, Kelee Ringo, the amount of Georgia Bulldogs, and they just so happen to have another one fall to them at 32. Jalen Walker going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So that is it for our mock draft 4.0 with a couple of trades shaking things up. Ashton Jeanty goes 9 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had the Chicago Bears ending up deciding to make a pretty radical move, right? So the Bears end up making a pretty big pick at number 7. They get Mason Graham. I know here it says a little bit different. That's because of the trades of what ended up happening. The Jets end up getting Shedeur Sanders, 21. We have the Saints ending up getting Jackson Dart. So a couple of teams get their defensive line help of the future. Other teams get their quarterbacks. Hope you enjoyed this video. It is so much fun to make these mock drafts and football content. Enjoy doing it so much for you guys. Hope that you subscribe and like this video, and stay tuned for more football videos coming at you soon. Thanks.